Groups is all done here in Wuhan, China. I'm joined right now by Kelsey Moser from The Score with my coverage presented by Mobalytics. We've cranked the ISO on this camera up because it is really dark outside and it's starting to sprinkle, so we'll see how long this goes. But what did you think of groups, Kelsey?
I'm pretty happy about the results of groups. I know you probably aren't that happy.
I mean, Cloud9 made it out. That is that's the base minimum that we need in North America, I think, to be able to continue carrying on. So, but I mean, why are you happy?
I mean, it's really exciting to see an all-Chinese team succeed on,
speaking of RNG,
yes, home soil, and then actually not just make it out of groups, but make it out of groups in first seed over a Korean team after 2-0ing them. So I think that's really exciting. The fact that it happened in China, I think is really good for the region and really good for the League of Legends fan base here.
All right, the camera keeps turning off, so I'm going to ask you this question again, Kelsey, and we'll see if we get an answer before the camera dies. Is there any idea for you, what are your theories as to why North America is losing?
Well, there's the standard theory that North American teams do really well first week, are comfortable with their picks. Other teams adjust, and then NA teams don't adjust to the adjustment. The other running theories that I kind of have has to do with North American wave control and the fact that against TSM in particular, teams in North America will just like stack side waves indiscriminately and in slow pushes and think this is good Baron control, so TSM doesn't really like have to venture out on the map to scale back into the game. This time they kind of did, and you saw Double Lift getting caught more often in side lanes and things like that.
I mean, it does feel to me as though North America, maybe with the exception of Cloud9, but definitely IMT and TSM, performed below their standards in North America. Like, we saw Double Lift, like, just not flashing whenever it was up. There's a game, I think, where somebody told me that he died 5 times, and every time he died, he had flash up. So, which, to me, just feels like not something we wouldn't expect to see from players like that in North America.
I think that there are maybe a few things. One particular thing that stands out, though, is that I think that players do actually read into some of the narratives, right? When stuff happens again and again, and then like you lose your first game on a day where you have to play 3 games in a row, well, not in a row, but just like in succession to get out of groups, and then you lose your first game and you're like, shit, now what do I do? I didn't know if I could swear or not. Anyway, you're like, shit, now what do I do? It's happening again. It's gonna be a week 2 North American implosion. We're all going to drop out of group stage. We'll be a disgrace. Everyone's going to flame me on Twitter. I can't. And then you're thinking of this instead of thinking, I just like pressed the stupid flash key. Like, it's fine. Yeah.
So it's just this kind of mental breakdown that occurs live on stage.
Yeah. I think mentality has a really big thing to do with it. I do think that like when you do see teams playing differently, and this is something that Chinese teams have also commented on when they've had similar like explosions, is when you see teams playing something differently from what you're used to, and then you kind of panic, and you're like, what if we can't play against this, or something like that. I think that also kind of happens too. Mentality is a huge thing.
What do you think? Is SKT going to win this whole thing again? Because they definitely look vulnerable today, at least.
I mean, I think we always kind of see this sort of SKT in group stages, right? Or in best of ones, or in games like this where they have some issues. I remember the last time in China, there was the joke where they went to like Haidi Lao Hot Pot, and then they couldn't really focus on scrims because they kept having to go to the bathroom. So there can be things and factors that go with this. I think SKT and teams like SKT are really good at adapting after shaky game ones, and that was what makes them really strong in best of 5s and comebacks. Like, they have really strong mentality, because probably strong mentality comes to an extent from winning so much, because it's like, yeah, we can always find a way to pull it out. We know this. We've been here before. So I think that SKT still have like a really strong chance of winning. I don't know if they're necessarily the favorites, but I don't feel like my assessment of them has changed that much, other than I expected them to do a little bit better in an Arden Sensor meta, because I thought Wolf would be more comfortable, and he still kind of looks awkward to an extent.
Speaking of Arden Sensor, it felt like this week we started to see some interesting ways around it, or different ways to dealing with it, especially Caitlyn. What do you think of sort of the different strategies, and will we continue to see the meta evolve before we get to quarterfinals?
Yeah, teams are focusing a little bit on the early game, and they're more willing to kind of race the Arden Sensor. And I think part of the reason is because the dominant supports we have are Janna and Lulu. And Lulu is just going to be like much better for dominant early game strategies. And if it's like the next best support after Janna and you're letting Janna get through, you really have to race Janna's effectiveness, because Janna is going to like scale better, be more effective with Arden Sensor, and just do a lot more for you in like the late game team fights. So I think teams are experimenting more with like how they can make Lulu much more effective in the laning phase. So that's kind of where I see that coming from.
Yeah. Very good. Well, any other, at the end here, do you have any other surprises or things that you thought were interesting about groups, or anything else that's going on?
I mean, I think it's really exciting that we're seeing European teams find ways to succeed and adapt, even though people were really low on them. People kind of predicted they wouldn't get out of group stage, or at least not do as well. I think that's really exciting and really healthy for the region, because people are saying, oh, why watch Europe if NA is just better? But my Rift rivals, it's kind of like, you know, what happened to LPL in 2015 when they won this tournament that happened in the middle of the year that no one really cared about, like called MSI. And then NA won this even more insignificant tournament in the middle of the year that no one cared about called Rift Rivals. And then they went to the World Championship, and then, oh my gosh, why aren't we doing well? Like, I think that this year, actually, NA had a very similar year to the year LPL had in 2015 in terms of the environment and what they were focusing on. A lot of money came into the region, and they decided to use it to import like a lot of higher quality players than I think they did. And for a while in spring, I think their coordination and macro play was really uncoordinated. So I'm not sure how much of an impact it had, but like an influx of money and influx of sponsorship deals don't always lead to success. So I don't know. It all depends on what you prioritize, because if you prioritize that sort of thing, I think it could be healthy for the scene, but you just gotta find a good balance. So good luck, guys, and yeah, Europe! Woo!
You're doing a bunch of coverage in here. Where can people find it, and anything special you want to highlight?
I currently am doing written content for ESPN, doing a lot more feature-based stuff, but you can find that and like input from players and interviews kind of woven into what I'm doing at ESPN.com. Yep. Yay.
There you go. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for the interview. For everyone else, this is Travis Gafford reporting live from the storm in Wuhan as the rain starts to roll in and the EDG fans start screaming in the background. You can check out more coverage, especially if this car doesn't hit us, here on my YouTube channel. I want to thank you all so much for the kind words and support about my videos here in China. I've been trying to put out a ton of great stuff, and you know what? It wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for my sponsor, Mobalytics. They are all about helping you try to get better at League of Legends by identifying your personal strengths and weaknesses, and you can actually check them out over at mobalytics.gg/Travis. They're also running a great giveaway that's in the description of this video, so feel free to check them out.